Hello friends, hope you are all doing well. Our today's topic is Architecture of SAP, which is my third lecture of playlist Introduction to ERP, SAP and HANA. If you missed to watch my first two lectures, I have shared the links in the comment section. Please go through them. Let's go into our topic. Basically, there are three types of architecture in SAP. It is one-tier architecture, two-tier architecture and three-tier architecture. We shall learn each of them in detail. Firstly, it is one-tier architecture, which is also called R1 tier system. We already came to know from the previous videos, SAP was launched in the year 1972 by 5 ex-IBM employees in Waldorf, Germany, and it serves as a ready-made package for every business. So for that purpose, SAP has launched its first product called R1 tier system. Here, R indicates real-time or online, and 1 indicates one-tier architecture. What does this real time or online mean? In India, until 2003 to 4, there is no online services like tracking of any goods consignment, net banking, email services, etc. Let's take an example of internet banking. Whenever any transactions like withdrawal or deposit happens, the system won't update immediately. It had taken few hours or sometimes days to reflect in customer's bank statement. So it took that much of time to update in database. There is time lag between transactions happen and the database updation. That was not called real-time database. When the time lag is zero or there is no time lag, that is called real-time database. Now we are seeing as soon as the transaction happens, immediately it is reflecting in database and hence can get to know the updated information. This is what we called as real-time database. And for any type of software, there will be three types of layers present, like presentation layer, application layer, and database layer. In R1 tier system, SAP has designed in such a way that these three architectures should be embedded in one single system. This is how SAP has designed one tier architecture. So the persons or the users who worked on R1 architecture felt difficult to understand and operate SAP system because they have to interact with database totally, which is not convenient during R1 phase. Moreover, it is not user friendly. So to overcome that, SAP has introduced another system called two-tier architecture. So this was launched in the year 1982. And in this architecture, SAP has designed in such a way that they have placed presentation layer in one system and application and database layer in another system. This is how they have placed. Presentation layer is in system 1 and application and database layer are present in system 2. Now users have felt somewhat easy to operate SAP, but moving forward, it was not successful in those days. The reason is it was already 10 years where SAP has started. Meanwhile, it has gained many customers, so many transactions were happening and it had stored huge amount of data in the database. So it failed to obtain data quickly whenever customer wants to retrieve the data. Moreover, the design is in such a way that application layer and database layer are present in the same system. So due to heavy load on the system, there were many performance issues and it was difficult to store the data as well as retrieve the data from the database. So taking all this into consideration, SAP has designed a beautiful architecture called three-tier architecture. And it was launched after again 10 years, which is in 1992. It is a client-server architecture. And you will be learning more about client-server architecture in the next video. So in this case, SAP has given dedicated space to each of the three layers so that they can settle in their individual systems. Like presentation layer has settled in system 1, application layer in system 2, and database layer in system 3. They got individual systems. At this stage, SAP has grown abnormally. The usage of SAP has become very easy and customers felt very comfort to work on it. And the results are also very fast. It attracted huge customers across the world. That is when SAP growth has started. So this is all about architecture of SAP. We will be learning more about layers of SAP. So there will be three layers in SAP, like presentation layer, application layer, and database layer. We will be learning more about each of them in detail. Firstly, it is presentation layer. We call it as presentation server and also client layer. Presentation layer is a kind of interface where customer or end user will work on it. For example, if you want any information from Google, you will be interacting with mobile and get the required information, right? So here mobile acts as an interface for you. Here you are the end user and mobile is the interface. So in case of SAP, for users to have an interaction with SAP, it has its own GUI called SAP Logon Pad, or we can call it as SAP GUI, where GUI stands for Graphical User Interface. So I will be showing you how SAP Logon Pad will be. So this is the SAP Logon Pad or SAP GUI, where users will be working on it. In other words, a software or a device which user interacts to get the required information is called presentation layer. Previously, I have given an example of mobile phone which acts as a device, and now it is SAP GUI which acts as a software. SAP presentation layer will reside in user machines which can be of laptops or desktops. And the next layer is application layer. So application layer is also called as kernel layer or basic layer or application server. Basically, developers will be working on this application layer. The developers will be working on reports development and execution. And this application layer serves as a transmitter or a mediator between presentation layer and database layer. And this application layer is present in SAP GUI, which is a presentation layer. I will be showing you where it is. If you launch an SAP Logon Pad or SAP GUI, you are able to see here application server, right? So this is what I mean to say. Application server resides in presentation layer of SAP. And the next layer is database layer. And the database layer is used for storing the data as well as retrieving the data. So business related data, SAP system data, and the tables, programs, etc. are stored in this database. And there are examples of some databases where SAP works on, like HANA, Oracle, Microsoft SQL, IBM DB2, IBM DB6, Siebel, Sybase, etc. I will show you some of the servers where SAP work on. Here you can see DB6, which is one of the database. And here it is HDB, which stands for HANA database. And there is another database called MaxDB. Also, we can see Oracle database also. So these are some of the databases where SAP work on. So let's consider an example with a combination of these three layers. Consider a end user wants to store some data into SAP database. So he enters the data through the presentation layer and it will pass it to application layer, where application layer process the data and send to database layer to store the data. In the similar way, whenever user wants to retrieve the data based on his selection criteria, again it will go to application layer and process the data, where it will in turn fetch the data from database layer and store it in application layer and gives as an output to the user in the presentation layer. This is how it works in SAP. Let's go through some key points. So far we have learned. There are three types of layers of servers in SAP, namely presentation layer, application layer, and database layer. And also there are three types of architectures in SAP, like R1 system, which is one-tier architecture, and two-tier architecture, and three-tier architecture. And in India, it is Intelli Group, which is a Hyderabad-based company, is the first one to implement SAP. And now it is called entity data, which is familiar now. So this is all for today. Thank you friends and hope you enjoyed the session. And our next topic will be on client server architecture. Until then, keep learning and share the knowledge. Thank you once again and keep learning. Jai Hind.